Yes.
Okay, so welcome to Time and Space Technical Training. I am Leah from Speaker International Office, and before we officially start with the training, I will let you know more about our hosts and about our agenda. So over the following 4 days, you will get a full picture of time and space system capabilities, again, in-depth technical knowledge, hands-on experience, and tips from our instructors. Our hosts are from Speaker support team, Speaker R&D, Speaker sales, and we also have moderator Jean from Speaker Fieldwork, who will be answering on your question in the chat box. So as you can see, I didn't find all selfies from our team, but I believe I will find it for the next training. So in front of us, a 4-day of time and space technical training. Monday and Tuesday will be focused on access control, Wednesday and Thursday on time and attendance. And by the end of the week, you will receive your AID certificate on your email, even you enrolled yourself in one model only. Because there is quite large group, we prepare training rules. So please don't be late so you won't miss any important information. We also suggest to mute your microphones so everybody will be able to hear the presenter. Then raise your hand and turn your camera on if you want to speak so the presenter will pay attention to you. And of course, you can write your question into the chat area and Jean will answer. So few days ago, we sent you preparation instructions. So I really hope that you find the quiet workplace, equipped with hardware components, and that you have demo license within reach. And yeah, this is my last slide. We will have 3 minutes break. The presenter will let you know when, and this is for a snack or for lunch. So that's all from my side, and please, Uroš, you can take over the microphone.
Thank you, Leah. Can you hear me well?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Let me just share my screen. Okay. Hello all. I will start by introducing myself. I'm Uroš Kočevar. I work at Speaker for more than a decade in the research and development team as a quality assurance engineer. So I know time and space pretty well. I will be with you over several topics through this training course, starting today with getting started section. Through this section, we'll be dealing with several topics on how to establish the system, what you need to know before making an installation, and I will also show you some tricks which can be very handy when you make an installation on the workstations that you don't know in details. So I will turn off the camera during the presentation, so we will focus mostly on the shared screen. The same as Leah mentioned, if you have any questions, write them down in the chat box, and Jean will try to answer it during my presentation. We will have some spare time at the end, and I will also try to answer them live at the end. Okay, let's get started because we have a lot of things to cover. So most of you are, I would say, more or less familiar with the time and space, but for some who are brand new here, when we look at the time and space system architecture, we can say this is a really standard client service architecture. So in the center, we have database where all the data is stored. Then we have a one layer of services which connect also to this database, and the external layers of clients. These clients can be either web clients or FAT clients. It depends, but all new modules, I think, that will come into the Time&Space system will be web modules, because of course nowadays it's much more simpler and easier to use web modules than FAT ones. If we took a look on the list of the modules that are available in the Time&Space system, you can see that this list is quite I would say long. And of course, this list represents the standard modules. The standard modules are the modules which are upgraded every time that the new version arrives, and are also maintained by Time&Space R&D team. And then we of course have some non-standard modules which are treated as a custom solution projects. During this course, we will focus on these standard modules. So if we take a look on the basic modules, I think that in every system you will have these three modules: Time&Space Manager, which is the main administration module where you set users' data, badges, and other rules. Then you will probably need to have a device administration portal. This is the module when you manage configuration of hardware. So if you will have some hardware in the system, of course you need to have a device administration portal. And nowadays, I think that everyone also needs a web module. So for daily operations like managing of users or registration, etc., people prefer web interface over the FAT one. Of course, there are several add-ons modules which can be either installed at the beginning or afterwards, as we will see later, because Time&Space module, Time&Space system itself is completely modular. So every time you can add or remove some module, and this not affects the system itself. But today we will focus on these basic modules, because other modules will be covered later in the dedicated topics. Before starting with the installation, you should be aware of the default ports which are used by the system. So first port, which is very important, is port used by the database server. So if you see that we have two database servers supported, Oracle and then Microsoft SQL Server. So often it happens that the customer has really tight security rules and a lot of firewalls. So before you make installation to them, it's wise to send them this list of ports which they will need to open in advance, so you will be able to perform and then start Time&Space software. As you can see, there are quite a lot of ports, but of course you don't need to open them all, because it depends on which modules you will use in the system. So this is just a list, and of course, according to the installation requirements, you will open only those which will you use. As you see that these are here is the list of default ports. So when you make a new installation, this default port is used. Of course, you cannot have a situation where two modules or two services are using the same port. So in this case, you need to check if some existing software is already using some of these ports, and you need to adjust either the existing software or update these ports in the Time&Space system. How you can easily check if some ports is used? You would open a command line console, and you will write this down, this string with the port number, and then you will get the list of the ports where this search port is included. And here in the second column, you see that I have searched in this example for port 4444. So you see that in this example, some service is already using this port. And how you can find this service? In the last column, you have process ID, and if you write this second line with the process ID, you also get the name of the service which is using this port. So this way you can identify used port before you make an installation, so you can avoid some misconfiguration. Okay, and then before, of course, you start with the installation, you need to decide which database server will you use. So as I mentioned earlier, we support two database servers, which are probably the most popular ones in the world, Oracle Database Server and Microsoft SQL Server. From the point of view of Time&Space, these two solutions are completely equal. So we do not prefer either SQL Server or Oracle for some specific reasons. Through my experience, I would say, so if the customer does not have any requirements about the database, and then you need to decide which database servers will you use. I would say that if you don't have any knowledge about Oracle, or you don't have any team member in your organization that is familiar with the Oracle, I would say that you go with the SQL Server, because it's much more friendly for the beginners, and also the user, let's say the tools are much more easier for the administration. What do you need to know about the supported Oracle server? The thing that you need to remember is that the Oracle version needs to be at least Oracle 9. So 9 or the newer. Of course, this 9 version is quite old, but some customers which already have some existing database servers can have some older versions, and also from them this can be useful. Of course, when we talk about Oracle server, Oracle database, this database can be installed on multiple operating systems like Windows, Linux, and some others. There are several management tools which you can use then to query the data, or to check the data, update the data if necessary. And the most important thing that you need to remember related with the Oracle edition is that if you are going to use Time&Space system with the Oracle database, you need to have a 32-bit Oracle client installed on your workstations. So for every I don't know installation where you will have FAT clients or on the server, if this of course server does not have the Oracle database on the same server. So if it's all in one installation, so if you have a server, when you have Oracle server and Time&Space services on the one server, in all other situations you need to install Oracle client, which is 32-bit, not 64, because with 64-bit Oracle client, Time&Space cannot work. But of course, you can have multiple Oracle clients on one workstation, so this is not a big problem. But this is the requirement, and often, of course, since all newer operating systems are 64 bits, also the IT guys also always install 64-bit software on it, but in this case we need 32-bit Oracle client. Next, with with both of these supported database, you have free version. So for some smaller installations, I would say up to if you have the systems up to let's say 100 users, you can use free versions of this of these databases, and you will see that these free versions exist both on the Oracle and the SQL Server side, but they come with some limitations. So this is the data that I copied from their website. So if you will use Oracle Express Edition, you will be limited on the several parameters like CPU, RAM, and available space on the disk. But of course, these Oracle editions or Express editions are designed in such way that you can, if these limitations are met, then you can either upgrade this existing installation to a standard version, or simply, of course, create a data backup and restore this database on the full version of the database server. When we talk about the SQL Server, you should use at least version 2014 or newer. Of course, Time&Space will work on the older versions, but if the clients ask you if they don't have the SQL Server yet, and they ask you which version of the database we need to buy, you of course suggest them to use the most newer version, which is at the moment for SQL Server. I think that 2019. This is the latest version, and of course, the SQL Server was designed for the Windows operating system, but I think that latest versions also can be installed on the Linux platform. So, but I have not tried it yet, but according to their online material, it's working quite good. And of course, the same thing as with Oracle, you have several tools which you can use for the management of this database, like included tool which comes with the SQL Server, and it's called Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio. If we once again look on the Express Edition, which is free of charge, this more or less the same limitations here as we have it on Oracle. And once again, of course, with this Express Edition, you need to be aware that if you are going to use this free version of database server, it comes with these limitations, and I suggest you that you do not use it on the large system because you will lack the performance then, because you have these limitations and the system will not function as good as it should if you would use standard or some other non-limited versions. This was the first part of this getting started. I think that you already fulfilled this assignment. So I think that Leah sent you an email when she lists these options. So before, of course, you can make an installation. You need to have a time-space distribution, which is available on the our new portal, which is called portal.spica.com. You need to register there, and once you get an access, you can go there. You download this edition, either SQL Server or Oracle. In this course, we will use SQL Server edition, which is also the let's say the majority also of our installations are on the SQL Server. And of course, you need to get licenses from our Spica support. So when you, I don't know, order, I don't know, a license for a new system, or if you make expansion on the existing system, I don't know, then these license codes are sent to you via email. For this demo, I will share you a link, because I think that you did not receive this email with the license, so you will be able to make an installation. But I will show you later how this portal looks like and when you can download this software. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is how the system or the clients access the data which is stored in the database. So there are two terms with which you will need to get familiar. First is authorization. It is a process when you create a permission or a user account for some users to access the data. And the second one is authentication, and this is the process when the system or some other platform verifies this identity. Why these two terms are important? Because as you will see in the next slides, we have several options how you can set up a time-space system to work with these two processes. So in the terms of time-space system, we have two modes. First is called standard mode. This is also default mode, where authorization and authentication is done within time-space system. So the administrator of the system creates these new user accounts, manages roles, and also creates passwords for these accounts, and everything is kept within time-space system. The other option is, we call it database native mode, where authorization is done on the two sides. One side is in the time-space system, and the other is on the database server, and the authentication is then done on the database server. So if you go into details, so if you have standard mode, we have only two logins on the database server. first is called tspika and the second one is called tspika_user. Of course, if you would change the name of the database, by default the database name is set to tspika, but if you change it to some other name, these names, of course, for the logins would change properly. So tspika login on the database server is used by Time&Space services and is also used as an initial service account. So when you create an empty database or a new database, you will use this login to enter Time&Space manager and then and also to set up the initial settings. tspika_user is then used only by applications where they connect to the database server. And the thing that you need to keep in mind here that for tspika user you can change the password if necessary on the database server, but for tspika_user you cannot change it because it's generated and it through our license, and if you will change this username for this underlying user login, the application will not be able to connect to the database. So in this case we have only two logins on the database, and while on the database native mode, for each user in Time&Space we will also create its own login on the database server. So we can say that in one what is the main difference is that we can say that this database native mode, let's say, can be more secure because the user needs to have the access to database system and of course to the database server. But on the other hand is there is more work when you create a user account, because you need to go first in the Time&Space manager and then also on the database server. But in practice, I think that, let's say, 99% of installation use this standard mode. So for some exotic reasons, this database native mode is still present, but main of the installation uses this standard mode. Okay, and then of course you can extend this authorization and authentication in the system by using Active Directory. There are some terms which is good that you are familiar when you talk with the Active Directory, like LDAP, AD, single sign-on, and of course what Active Directory integration brings is that the authentication is done then on the Active Directory server if this option is activated, and of course the user doesn't need to write down the username and the password when entering the application. So everything works more easy when you use the system. And also if you are going to set Active Directory integration, you need to know that there are two options which are available here. First is you can set one-to-one matching between the Time&Space user accounts and AD user login name. This is the most common way how you will match the users within Time&Space system, because this matching is done one-on-one. And we also have one-to-many matching, where you would create a user group on the Active Directory server, which will have time and space prefix, and then you will add all the users which will have the same rights into this user group on the Active Directory server. And of course, on the time and space, you will also then create appropriate configuration. But this second one-to-many matching is sorry, is used when you have a lot of users with the same permissions. If you have if you have a few users, or let's say users with very different permissions, then you will go with one-to-one matching. Of course, single sign feature is supported on all time and space clients except on the old event collector manager, but this event collector manager is older version which is not used in with our latest software, so I think you don't need to worry about this. Maybe also the thing to mention is that if for the web modules which are based on the Delphi, so the older generation, you need to add some existing module for this functionality, but all these things are in detail covered in our documentation. I will also show you later where you can find this documentation and also how to use them. So you don't need to, I don't know, learn this thing or remember all the details. You just need to know where you need to search and get this information where you need them. Okay, with how you can get information who is currently logged in the operating system, it's pretty easy. You just open once again a command line console, type who am I, and you will get a response like this. So first is domain with the backslash, and then the Active Directory login name. So in this case, it's euros k, which is my AD login name for Spica domain, and then such user account will be created in the time and space manager if I would enable Active Directory integration in the system. Later I will show you how easy this is done. And when we talk about single sign module, I also mentioned before. So for Delphi web-based applications like web time and space, WebBeef, or approval workflow, you need this additional module which then handles this single sign-on functionality. But all of this, as I mentioned, is done is really well documented in the documentation, and I think it's not necessary for these first steps. Okay, when we talk about user data entry, so when you set up a database, you make installation of the time and space modules that are required. The first thing that you will probably do in the system is that you will add a list of users that will be using this system. So what are the ways how you can make a user data entry? So the most common way, of course, and which is also then used on the daily basis, is to do it manually through time and space manager or web time and space. Of course, for the initial setup, I think that the most easy way is to prepare a CSV file and import this data by using simple import application. This is one external tool which is also available on the time and space distribution. and we will see an example later how this is done. And of course, there are some other ways which came handy if you are using some kind of integrations with some other system. Let's say that the customer requires that the users are automatically seeing through some HR application. So in this way, you will use either Time API or Space API to update and maintain these users in the system. So we have come to our second practical assignment. Of course, that you will be able to follow me on your workstations if you have all the ingredients which are required for this installation. Otherwise, I suggest you that you I don't know, just follow my screen and check my progress, how this is done. So before we will start with the installation, we will check the document which is titled Time&Space Installation and Upgrade Guide. This is the document which is also available either on the partner portal or on the distribution, Time&Space distribution, and when you can find also the step-by-step process how you can make Time&Space installations, what are the pre-requirements, etc. So a bunch of useful data that you can check from time to time if something has changed or has been added. Okay, so maybe before we start with the practical part, I will go on our partner portal. So our partner portal is accessible on this link. So portal.spica.com. You would go, I will say, sign out here. So you will go, you will select a partner portal. So this is the first switch. Either you are a partner or a customer. You will select a partner. Then you will sign in. Of course, if you don't have the credential yet, you will need to register. And I have already saved my credentials. So when you get to on the portal, you have the navigation on the top and the thing that you need to know. So this additional thing will be not visible on your account because this is only on my account because I'm also an admin for this portal. So you will go into documents, select a drop down and go to the download site. And on this site, you can download all the existing actual versions of our software. So the current, or let's say the official release, are the following. So Time&Space 11.20 version. So you have release notes and the SQL Server and Oracle edition. Then you have PIF module, approval workflow module, and followed by some other things like firmwares for our hardware and some other tools. Then we also have the section for beta releases. So at the moment there is no beta release for Time&Space version, but we will I think that in the end of Q2 this year, the 11.30 version should arrive. And we also have the section about our previous release. So previous release is our previous official version because this is here. So if you have some customer who want to expand, I don't know, the system with only, I don't know, PIF module or approval workflow module, but doesn't want to, for some reason, upgrade to the current official version, you have the links here and you can download it. And also the documentation. So the documentation for a technical part is found under technical docs. So here you have all the user manuals from the software, for the hardware, for biometrics, and there are also some documents which describes readers and cards which we mainly use in our system. So this software documentation, as I mentioned before, is also available on our time-space distribution. Okay, let's head now to my workstation. So when we will go through this part of how to install a time-space system and how to set up a database. So I already downloaded this SQL Server time-space edition on my hard drive, so you also get these links. So if I open the structure, you see that you have some exe file which starts this installation process, and you have also the folder, a subfolder called documentation, and here you see that you have all documentation in 3 languages, so Croatian, Slovenian, and English. And if we open this installation and upgrade guide, we will just go briefly through it. You have such things as system requirements. So often when your end customers will ask you what kind of hardware do we need to have on our workstation for time-space system to work well. So you will go here on the system requirements and you will check these requirements, and then you can give them this information. And also the installation process is quite is described in detail here. So you have how to install SQL Server Edition or Oracle Edition, and of course before you start with installation, for every installation you keep in mind that there are some pre-installation requirements. So you need to have a .NET framework 4.641 or higher. So this framework is required if you will use modules like Visual Space Manager, Biometric Administration Portal, or Device Administration Portal, or Time API. So as I mentioned before, Device Administration Portal is it's like standard module in every installation if you have hardware. So this is basically the must-have things, and you also need to have Internet Information Services. So this is a Windows add-on which you can enable in Windows features. Then you also need to have message queuing. This is also the Windows feature. So here you can also see a chapter which describes Windows features, where you can get them and which one you need to select. So you will go through this list and select this requirements. In my case, I already have done this because this installation of requirements can be quite time consuming, and it also depends on how fast is your workstation. And the last two are MVC4 and ASP.NET web pages. So when you complete the pre-installation of these requirements, you can then proceed with the installation of time-space system. What happens if you do not have these pre-requirements installed on your system. So these pre-installation requirements are mainly related with the .NET based modules. So, for example, if you don't have a .NET framework, when the setup will install, let's say, device administration portal, on the, I think, second or the third step, you will get the notification that this requirement is missing, and you will need to cancel the installation procedure, install these requirements, and then start the setup once again. But don't worry, because Time&Space setup is designed in such way that you can run it several times. You don't need to worry about this part. Okay. So we have covered these pre-installation requirements. And the thing that you also need to have is the license. So the license is distributed in with two files. First is there are two versions of license file. Let's say one is human readable, which is TXT format, and one is in the format that only, of course, the system understands it. So if we open this TXT format, we can see that at the top you have the version of the system for which this license is. So if you are going to make an upgrade of the existing system to a newer version, when you expand the license of the existing system, you need to, of course, get the new license where these parameters are updated. And here you can also see if this license has some time expiration set, and of course the licenses according to our modules. So for this, I will just, so as I mentioned before, I think that you not get this license via email. So I will send you a link. Just a second. I tested it before. So where you will download a zip file which contains this license. I think this is the yes. Okay, so I will paste this link in our chat. So on this link, you can download the demo license, which you can use through this training course. This license is, of course, limited with the expiration on the end of June. It's created for the version 1120B and have unlocked all the modules in the system. So you will have the full functionality if you're going to use this license. Okay, so how you start installation? Of course, you will check for the file named tssetup.exe and you will start it. Of course, it's good to start it as an administrator, which have greater permissions. So in this case, you have noticed that my setup has started in the Slovenian language because I already have some pre-installed installations of the system which were in Slovenian language. So of course the setup checks if you have some records in your registry and selects this language from the registry. I will just let me see, let me cancel this, and I will just make one quick installation with some other setup when I will change the language to English, so you will be able to follow me in the English language. So you can see that the initial, if you check the structure of the distribution, you can see that doesn't matter. You see several folders, and if you go under the server, you have for each module in the system, you have a separate folder, and this separate folder also consists of the separate setup for each module. So when you start this TS setup procedure, this is like a main installation wizard, which then calls other setups, which will be then triggered during the installation process. So if I start the setup once again, you will see that now it's in English, so you will understand what it's saying. So first step is like just next. So on the second step, you will need to load a product license key. So I will just select read, and I will navigate to my folder when my license key is saved. So if you will download this license zip file, which are entered in the checkbox, and expand it in your folder, you will get these files, and you will look for the for the file which has which is type LIC. This is the type which is used in the time and space system. So I will select it, and I will go with next. So on the next step, you select in which language you would like to have your installation. There are some predefined languages available here, but if I don't know, we constantly, I don't know, update these languages. So if there are some language which is not available for your country, and you will like to have your local language available in time and space, you will of course send a inquiry through your contact team in Spica, and then we'll send you instructions how to translate this time and space into your local language. So the idea is that of course we cannot translate time and space to all the languages available. So the idea is that the partner itself is responsible for the maintenance of the translation for their local language. I will go with the English, and on the next step, I need to just confirm this license agreement, and we will come to the first crossroad when you need to decide either if you go with the simple or advanced installation. So what is the difference? The difference is that if you go with the simple, you have less thing that you can set up during the installation. Some predefined things would be selected for you. I would suggest that you use these simple installations only when you do some demo installations on some new and you need to quickly install time and space system for a demo, etc. For production purposes, I suggest you go with advanced installation, where you have advanced options that you can set up during the installation. Okay, and then we go to we come to the component set page. Here you select which modules you would like to have installed on your workstation. By default, device administration portal is selected. Spica messaging service, this is also required. This is the service which is responsible for sending messages between Time&Space modules, web Time&Space module, Time&Space Manager. Of course, I mentioned before, this is the main configuration client, Visual Space Manager. This is, of course, not a standard modules, but by default is selected. And under tools, you see that Time&Space control panel is selected. I will unselect this Visual Space Manager because we will not need it today, and we will install it later when we will come with the agenda to Visual Space Manager. So for now, we will have device installation portal, messaging service, WebTS, Time&Space Manager, and control panel. So next, then you decide in which folder you would like to install. I will just keep it this default folder, which is program files, Spica, Time&Space. Of course, here are some other fields which are related if you will going to also install SQL Server Express edition of the database. So if you don't have SQL Server already in your installation, there is a possibility that this Time&Space setup sets you installs SQL Server during the Time&Space installation. But in my case, I already have a database server on my workstation, so I will choose this option if I do not have any database server on my machine. Of course, you see here that this option will install Microsoft SQL Server 2014 Express Edition. As we talked before, this is the thing that is limited in several ways, so you need to keep this in mind. But if you already have the database server installed, what this setup does, this setup scans through your local network for all SQL servers and gets the lists. So you see that in our case we have quite a few SQL servers which came as a response. So either I can directly enter the name of my workstation here. I can, if you are installing it on your local machine, if this database server is also present on this machine that you are doing Time&Space installation, you can also enter just the dot or local host or etc. So I will just enter it dot, and it has successfully connected to my database server. And by default, as I mentioned in the presentation, the name of the database is set to TSPica. So if I choose this drop-down menu, I get the list of the databases that are already present on this server. As you can see, I have some other databases already there. So I can also write some other name if I need to, but I will leave it just TSPica for now, because I do not have any special reason that for changing the name. Okay, and on the next step, we need to decide either if we will create a new empty database or a sample database, or we will just keep that database creation. So if you're doing installation for your customer in the real environment, of course, you will select these options. So this will create a new empty database without any user data, but of course with some predefined categories, events, etc. So you will have some predefined data, but without any user data and so on. For demonstration purposes, so if you like to have just a Time&Space installation or on your laptop to play with it, etc. You will select the demo database. With demo database, you get already some predefined list of users, etc. So this can speed up your preparations for some demonstration, or you just need to test some functionality in the system, and this option can spare you a lot of time. And if you already have a database up and running, you can select skip database, and this step will be skipped. In my case, I will select a new empty database, and at the end we get a summary list of what will be installed during this installation process. And I will start the process with the next button. And during this installation process, you will see that several pop-ups will appear, and for .NET modules, you will get built-in setups triggered because these .NET modules like device administration portal, Visual Space Manager, etc. have so each module have their own setup, which is then invoked during this initial setup. So here it is. So in the background, you see the main installation process, but within this, the setup for device administration portal has started. Once again, I will go through this setup procedure, and here is the step where the setup check these pre-requirements which I talked before. So if some of these pre-requirements were not met, this will be a red sign here, and you will not be able to proceed with the setup. So you will select a cancel. This setup will cancel. Of course, the initial setup will continue, and you will be able to, I don't know, add on these pre-requirements later, and then once again start the setup procedure. So in my case, everything is set up. On the custom setup, I will select all the modules or services which are part of this device administration portal. You probably in the I don't know 80% of these setups, you will just go with the next button. You don't need to change anything. And since this device administration portal is a web module based on the Internet Information Services, you need to select on which site you will add this portal as a virtual directory. So in this case, I will just leave it on the default website. And also, since this current Time&Space installation is the mixture of the old and new technology, you see that the main Time&Space setup, you need to choose at front which database you are going to use. So you see that with this .NET setups, you have only one setup, and it is used for both database versions. So if I will have to make an Oracle installation, I will just switch here to Oracle. And also the language parameter here for the interface can be set to Slovenian. Okay, and I will complete the installation just by going to next. And so this is one individual setup which creates administration portal, and once it's finished, our initial setup continues with the list of clients and services that needs to be installed. And one setup which is also standalone is the control panel. This control panel is quite a handy tool which monitors the status of Time&Space services, and it's placed in the system tray. I will show you later because you can easily monitor what is the status of the services, and you just in the mainly you just go with the next here. You don't need to change anything. So we have come to the end of the Time&Space installation procedure. Here you see that I get the last information how I can now sign or log into my newly installed system. You see that a username is set to tspica, and the password, it's a product key which is called system account password, and it's available in our txt file of the license. So if I open this license here, so if I check for a system account password, it's here. So this is my default password for the installation. Of course, this password is different for different serial numbers. So this is like default password for this system user. And I also have these other options if I would like to check what's new file, place icon shortcut on the desktop, and launch Time&Space Manager. So I will just launch Time&Space Manager, and here on the login you see that some information are displayed. So username and password, which I need to enter to enter the Time&Space Manager. The server, as I mentioned, dot is the same as a local or local host, and my name of the database, and the login mode, which we talked before. So the standard is the default solution here. So in my case, the username is tspica and the password is system account password. So I will just copy this password, paste it here, and I'm able to enter the Time&Space Manager for the first time. So if we go here under user badges, you see that everything is empty. There is no user data in it. And you see here that you also have one sign here which says license is not activated. So every time when you make a new installation or you update the existing license, you will get this option. And how you can get rid of this message, because if the system is not activated, you will be not able to do a data collection in the system. So I will just show you what happens. So if we start, as I mentioned before, Time&Space control panel, so this shows us the statuses of the services of Windows services which were installed or are currently present on this workstation. So we have several services, and I will try to start them before activating the system. And you will see that some of them will not start. So I will wait for a service to start, and as you see, all of them started except one, which is called event processor, and said stop. So why this service stop? You can you can check where the service is located. So the installation path, this is found by going to modules and here, so event processor. So installation path is program files, Time&Space, event processor, and more or less every service within Time&Space system has its own log file. So with going to check the log file, you can check what is wrong, what went wrong, why this service is not started. So I went to my installation main installation folder. So program files, tspica, Time&Space, and I will check for event processor. And here we see that In this main folder, we have subfolder called logs, and here these logs are dated by the date. So for every day you get a new log file, and for 19th of April I have a file with the error message. So I will check this, and here I give additional information why this service is not started. So as you see here, you need to activate the license in order to start the service. This service, of course, is responsible for data collection. So you can set up, I don't know, users, all things, but when you will connect a terminal, you will not be able to get the information or registration for the terminal, because this service is responsible for this thing. How to activate the system? It's pretty simple. You go to help license, and here you see the field for activation code. It says license is not activated. I will select edit. So basically you would go to this website, fill out the data, but this data should be the data from the end customer. So it's not your data as a partner, but the data from the end customer. You will fill out this data, and you will copy this license key here, and when you will activate this license, you will get the key, the activation code, which is entered here. For this demo code which I sent you, this online activation is not working because it was not created in the online mode, so it's not working, but I have added this activation key here. So if you open the activation key text file, you copy this file, you paste it here, you proceed with the OK, and you will see that the activation code is valid, and all I need to do is restart the Time&Space manager, and this activation code is applied. So once again, I will log in with my super user, and you see that there is no more message. And if I go once again back to my services and I just select once again start all, it will just try to start the not started services. I will see that now my event processor service has started, the system is activated, and now can I proceed with the further setup of the system. So the last part we will check is how to add users into the system. So as I mentioned before, the manual way is by going to users view, and you will select add here. You need to enter at least last name and first name. I will call my user system admin. All other data can be filled out later. So I will add my user, and I will add this user Time&Space account within Time&Space system. So once you add a user, if you would like to grant him some permissions to enter Time&Space modules, you will go to the view called authorization, go to user accounts, and you see that there are no user accounts within Time&Space system yet. If you pre-check the view roles, you see that there are some predefined roles already here in the system. For, like, say, administrator, we have all permissions in the system, operator, and some roles for the web access. So I will just create a user with the administrator role for this system. So go back to user accounts view, select add, select name for my admin. So I will call it username admin, password, and select my role. And of course, this user account is then linked with some user. Within Time&Space system, you can have several user accounts for the same user. So you can create several different user accounts with different roles for some users if you have such requirement, or this kind of configuration will solve you some specific issues. So if I now close Time&Space Manager again and re-enter with my newly created user, so I will just enter here admin is as I said it in my case, and as you see, I entered now the Time&Space with the user that I created before, and this user accounts within Time&Space system is also then used when you will configure the system further, because this initial account which we used at the first, so TSPICA is used only when you for initial setup. The end user will use this built-in Time&Space accounts, because also the audit log is then capable. With the audit log, if you have, of course, the appropriate license, then you can check which changes has been done through the different users. Because if many users use the same account, of course, then you cannot know who made some changes. Okay, so we manually added one user. We have created a user account for with the administrator rights. Of course, here under roles, you can see that you can either update these permissions manually. It's very customizable. Which permissions user have. You can easily copy the existing role and update the role. So it's can be really easy to tweak how the system performs on the specific modules and on the specific views. So the last thing that we're going to check now is how to import data using a CSV file, or as we can say, with the bulk import. So yes.
Please, one question before we continue. This code activation, license activations.
Yes.
It doesn't work for this license. How can we?
Yes, I mentioned that before. So with this license, this activation is not working because this license was not created in the appropriate way, you know. So for the license that you will get when you will install real systems, this will work. So in this case, you will use this activation code, which is.
Can you send us this?
You have link here. So in the chat.
Sorry.
In the chat, if you go.
You already
I have pasted
this.
Yes, this zip file, and you unzip this file, and you have this activation key.
Okay, thank you.
But for the as I mentioned before, for the licenses will be for the end customers. This activation form will work. I will also mention here that this activation process will completely renew in the upcoming version. So for the version 1140, this activation will be completely renewed, and I think that will be more user-friendly and automatic, so you will not need to go to several sites to activate it. Okay, let's finish with this bulk import of users. So what you will do, you will go to documentation and check for the tool called simple import. So you will open a simple import and you will see here the documentation about this tool, what can be done, what parameters can be updated with the users, what is the structure, etc. And if you go to the subfolder server, you can go to folder import, and here you see that you have the tool and the template which can help you get started with this import. So if you don't have this thing on your local folder, you will copy it to your local folder. So I already copy it here in one of my local folder. I will rename this to old. So this was the test from yesterday. So if you open this file in the text editor, you will see that you have some column headers which are separated with this sign. I cannot get the name. Semicolon, yes, with the semicolon, and you have some demo data for the user Johnny Rebeldoc. So if you open this file in the Excel, you will get a cleaner view what can be set and how. So you see that this import file should have these columns with these names, so you cannot change this first line. So this first line stays the same. You just update the data in the following rows. So here you see we have already some data for the user called Johnny Rebeldoc, and which data you should fill in. It depends. It depends on the situation. As I mentioned before, at least you need to have a first name or last name. Some of the users also add some other information. You can also assign directly a batch number to your users. You can also give them information about department. You can also create a user account with the specific role here, etc. But it depends. So in my example, I will show you how we will update this this file to insert 10 users. So all users will be named just Johnny, and the last name will be a number, so we can distinguish them. So in this case, we will have one user with the full user data. So the batch number, etc. Or you can also update the batch number. So I will just copy this. Okay, and without any other data, I'll need to save this. Yes, one important thing that you need to remember with simple import, you need to close the editor of your CSV file before using it in the import tool. Otherwise, you will get an error because this simple import tool requires has a lock when it opens this file. So I will close this. No, so if I open this file again in the text editor, I see that I have these new lines for my users. I will start my simple import tool. And one thing that to remember here, that this tool needs to be, you need to log in to this tool with the super user account. So super user account tspika, so you cannot enter with our admin account. You will get an error. So super user account tspika, my super account password. And first thing to do, I will need to load my import CSV. And delimiter stays the same. I will left everything the same. Here you see that you have some additional options because for a time attendance data, you can also use this tool to just make an update of the existing data, but for the only for the update of the users, you don't need to change anything. So just the file path, and if you open the preview, you will see the data that is in this CSV file, and you will finish the process by selecting run action at the end. So if I now switch back to my time and space manager and I hit refresh, you see that I have easily imported 10 users from my CSV file, and for my first user, I also have the other data filled in, like email, organizational address, and so on. And I have also created a user account for this. So with this, if you have a lot of users, this is the way how you can import the initial data in the system. And of course, as with everything else, you have a log file here. You can check if some non-critical errors happen during the import. And in my case, you see that you can also set a picture for this user if required. So in my case, the picture could not be imported because this path of the picture is not existing. So I get only the warning here that the picture could not be opened, but the users were imported. And you see that these badges were imported into the system and already assigned to these users. So this is the really nice and quick way how you can import this data. What is also the good thing is if you're going to use this simple import, you can send this template to your end customer in front. So before the installation, you send them this template, you gave them information which fields they need to fill out, and then when you do the installation, you can easily use this prepare file to import the user's data. Okay, we are on time. This will be all for my side. Jean, do we have any questions which remained unanswered? Jean? Okay, I think that not. I also checked the chat. I think that Jean already answered it.
Yeah, we just had one question, and I think you answered it already.
Great. Okay, then this will be all from my side, and we'll need to move on because we don't want to be late for the next presentation. Have a nice day and see you tomorrow. Bye.
Okay, let's have 5 minutes break. Even we are 3 minutes, 4 minutes late. We will have 5 minutes break and then we will continue, and then I will also answer on the question sent to the chat. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. 5 minutes break. Okay, in the break time, Vladimir, you have question?
Sorry, Boštjan. I get the answer. Thank you. I have a question regarding this activation. I didn't catch that.
Okay.
That we need to use this code.
It's easy. You just do it once, twice, and
Yeah, I finished that. Thank you.
but maybe those of you who you are already familiar with Time&Space, this is something new in Time&Space. Before, Time&Space was working fine without activation, but now if it's not activated, there is no data collection, and some services will not work, will not start.
Okay, this is new.
Yeah, only in that way we can push customers to activate the system.
Okay, yes, but on some way you can control the license, that you don't use the same license several times or something like that.
Okay, anyway, I think we can continue with our training. I'm Boštjan. I'm working as engineer in technical support for already almost 2 decades. So I have knowledge on new and old software and hardware. And if you will have questions, just write them down, because today I think we have a lot of time. Now, first 2 topics are just hardware. It's mostly presentation, but probably I will go quickly through them, and we will have more time for configuring software, for configuring hardware, for communication, because showing just PowerPoints, it will be quick, and we will have much time for configuration and maybe for your questions. Okay, I will now turn off my camera and share you PowerPoint. Okay, do you see my presentation? Jean?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Okay, first I will show you Zone Wing and Zone Door platform. It's our latest zone platform of our controllers, and here's a picture. Also, the smallest picture is basically our older controller, the small picture, This is a docs controller, and this controller had everything in one box.
Boštjan, sorry, we don't
Yes.
see your presentation.
Okay. Just a second. What about now?
No.
Yes, you can see the PowerPoint, the first page.
Vladimir, do you see the?
Now, yes, it's maybe some glitch, but
Okay,
okay,
it's
now it's
better if I share my screen. Okay. Okay, here is the oldest controller, which had all-in-one processors, input outputs. We divided the brains like zone wing and the input output unit named zone door. Like it says here, the zone wing is the brain, and zone door has the input outputs logics for connecting doors, readers, some keys, sensors, and so on. And both can be connected to the mounted to the DIN rail, also with the power supply. But I think you all mostly are already familiar. To this zone wing controller, we can connect up to 32 zone doors. So with one controller, we can control up to 64 doors. It's basically 12 volts operated system, but you can anyway connect 24 volt. But keep in mind that if you do that, your readers connected to the zone door must also support 24 volts. If not, you will burn your readers. Here are some schemas. How can we connect the system? Zone wing and zone door. More zone doors. Zone doors are connected via CAN connection. Basically, these are 3 wires: CAN high, CAN low, and CAN ground. And everything, all communications is going through here. And decisions are made in zone wing. Like I said, this is done, zone wing is done on the Linux platform and has also built-in web interface. We will see it later. For I don't know, for initial configuration, for setting IP addresses, for upgrading application firmware, and so on. Here are some basic technical data. like I said, it's zone wing can operate on 12 volts. And environment, it's these are technical environment for operating temperature. So keep in mind, if you will mount it somewhere outside, that's by specification, it works from 0 degrees Celsius up to 50, not lower. Okay, we have on the field also in some external boxes, external, I don't know, maybe parking places. But you must keep in mind that it must be protected from the environment. So zone wing have two USB connections, have possibility for RS485 for connecting like some other locks like Apereo, and can support mostly all standard vegan formats like 26, 27, 37, and so on. If you will connect some other reader to the system and it will not work, we can prepare some scripts that you will load to the controller, and the controller will understand your special reader, for example. Okay, zone door is basically its input-output unit. It has no brain. It will just do what zone wing is sending to the zone door. You can connect readers, inputs, sensors, push buttons, electromagnetic locks, and so on to the zone door. And you can connect, you will connect over the CAN connection to zone wing. Here the last line says that all processing is done with zone wing, with zone wing or Z1T, zone touch. That means that, okay, one zone door can be connected also to zone touch. Okay, here are some technical data. Operating temperature is the same as for zone wing, and we can connect two Vigand or data clock readers, OSDP readers, and inputs and push buttons, and so on. We will see later in this today what are the possibilities for connections. Okay, something written also here. We have more options what to connect to one zone door. Like you see it here, the most common option is this, the second one, two readers, two inputs, four outputs. But you can select during the installation, you will select in device administration portal what configuration you need, and you will have to change also physically on the device with dip switches and jumpers that will match your software configuration. For example, if you need the fourth options, okay, sorry. Sorry, my presentation stuck. Hello, do you still hear me?
Yes, we
Yes,
hear you.
yes, we hear you.
Yeah, just everything stuck. Freeze my screen. Okay. Now I'm back on. If you, for example, select this four combination, no readers, 10 inputs, 4 outputs, you will basically use this reader inputs, vegan inputs for ordinary inputs, but to achieve that, you must change deep switch and jumper position. All that is described in the user manual for zone wing, zone door, and we can check it later. Okay, this is some basic schema how to connect. You can see here that there are only 2 wires for CAN communication, CAN, HAN, CAN low, and also there's a black wire for CAN ground. This needs to be done, especially if you mount some zone door on the other location, not on the central location together with the zone wing. And this second zone door uses second power supply, that it's not using the same power supply as zone wing. You must use CAN ground. So it's better if you use CAN ground at every installation. You see that here. You see that the CAN ground is connected to the left power supply, and right power supply is just for powering the zone door, but ground is from the first one. So all the devices, all the zone doors are on the same ground. Okay, here we have some samples for configurations. All this is you can find also in the zone wing, zone door manual. How to set up jumpers and deep switches. This is maybe most common configuration for zone wing, zone door connection. Like this. You see output 1, output 2. There are door strikes, 2 readers on the vegans, and some door sensors and push buttons. Anyway, on the, for example, push button 1, it's connected to connection output 3. This is the basic, the default label, but for achieve that, you will have to change configuration in software and in probably also with deep switches and jumpers. Okay, another configuration. I will show you later also with the camera live connection. I have connected everything on my desk. So when we will configure everything, you will see the live result. And I don't know if you will try to connect and configure everything with me, if you succeeded to install device administration portal and database before Vituros, if not, maybe you have time now during my PowerPoint presentation, and you will go with me later when we will connect device administration portal and hardware. Okay, some other configuration. And some technical data about connection, cables, minimum voltage. This is one sample how it looks on the field, how everything should be connected. If it's connected properly, it's easier for also to maintain, to make some service. Okay, these are some data, how to informations how to set the hardware. We will do that in live. What is needed, as I said, ZoneWing has its own web interface, so we can change the IP there. We can use the USB stick for changing the IP. Okay, this Pizza Device Manager is old application and we will not use it anymore, not even during presentation. Okay, this is this portal, we will check it later. Some basic data. Okay. I think I will ask you if you have questions, some questions now. If not, even we are very quick. I will go to next presentation, Zone Spot and Zone Touch, and we will have at least 1 hour more for hardware configuration and maybe for your questions. Jean, are there some questions on the chat?
No, not at the moment.
Okay, maybe later when we will connect everything. Just a second.
That's my teacher.
Someone new. Okay. Do you hear? Do you see my screen, Jean?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, now we will go a little bit quicker through Zone Spot. Zone Spot is basically one zone wing and one zone door in one box. It's may be better if you use this Zone Spot for smaller location. It's easier to install because it's only in one box. There are no need for external second power supply, no need for CAN communication. Like you see, we can connect two readers, two Vigand or data clock readers. It's basically the same amount of inputs and outputs like on one zone door and can be powered with external power supply 12 volts or power over Ethernet. You can see the back side. It's a standard DIN rail for mounting. And this is the front plate. And some technical data for power consumption, what you can connect to the device.
Boston, can we connect? Hello?
Yes.
Can we connect this Morpha fingerprint reader to this particular zone spot?
Yes, you can connect over Vigand. You can connect basically any reader, any type of reader over Vigand. Just keep in mind that you must set the Vigand interface on this reader side in the way that the controller will understand it.
Okay.
Some use some standard, I don't know, 26, 32, 37 bit configuration.
Okay.
Okay, we have also now in latest firmware applications, we also supported OSDP readers. There are some technical data for the wirings. And for OSDP readers, there's a need for address configuration, so you need some special HID configuration cards. Because each reader has its own address. Some markings for inputs. Here, keep in mind that some inputs and outputs, some are active. That means that, for example, output 1 and output 2 will give you 12 volts, but not for output 3 and output 4. They are passive. And the same is for inputs. Some needs just a push button, and some needs also power supply like 12 volts to trigger the input. Outputs, as I said, some are active, some are passive. You can see here that on output 3 there's a power supply connected that it will just output 3 will just short circuit, create short circuit when it's activated. So you need power supply. If you need to connect some, I don't know, light beeper. Okay, this is for network settings. It's basically the same as for zone wing connection with over portal, over web interface, or with USB stick. This is portal is the same.
So kind of you get to be sure that there's not
Sorry,
actually had it.
someone is asking something.
Sorry, go on. Yeah. So that's why I asked for the number. At least more.
Could you please mute your microphone? Okay, now we done already 2 presentations in half an hour. I will jump to the zone touch presentation, and then we will continue with hardware configuration, device administration, and device administration portal. Okay, zone touch is our time terminal and can have 3 versions. It's a compact version with integrated reader. Then there's a biometric version with IDEMIA reader on the bottom. The reader is the same like on Sigma devices. It has also the RFID reader inside, so you can use it for biometric and for badge reading, or for both, maybe additional verification, badge plus fingerprint. And there's also with keyboard. These keys at the bottom are basically duplicated keys on the touch. On the touch screen. So arrival, from the picture, arrival will be the same key, left upper key on the keyboard. Here are some technical data. Zone touch can also be powered with 12 volts or PoE, power over Ethernet. And it comes with standard reader for I-class MIFARE. We can use also some legacy formats, card formats like Indala, HID Prox, EM Marine. It has biometric possibility for biometric reader. It's IDEMIA Morpho reader. So we can use the system with Sigma devices and with zone touch with fingerprint in the same system. Some screens on the zone touch, mounting specifications, connectors, what has to be connected. Basically, when you get the device, there's already RJ45 connector with a short cable at the back side, and if you are using PoE, you just connect it to the Ethernet, to the cable, and it's already on. Some technical info. For entering setup on the device, I will show you later on the device itself, or maybe I can show you now. Just a second. You can see my screen, yes? For initial configuration, you have 2 options. to open web interface, to log in and set IP addresses and maybe upgrade firmware, or you can do it manually on the device. You just press and hold here on the upper side of the screen, where's the clock. The login screen will appear. I must show you in the way that you will see it. The default password for entering here is 1337. Now I will confirm. I got the same screen as on my PowerPoint presentation. See? And okay, here, let's go back. I can change the IP addresses. Maybe, I don't know how much is visible. You can see my IP addresses, subnet and gateway. I can change it here and save configuration. There are also some other settings. You can try it on your device. If you have it, I'll just exit now. We will check this also later via web interface. You can get firmware application firmwares on our portal. Uroš already told you how to log in to the portal. And okay, this is already configuration in device administration portal. Just some screens, but we will go live later. And we can connect external reader to the device on the cables here. Or we can connect one zone door also here to the and it will work like wing with one zone door. You can open 2 doors with zone touch. Here are some technical data. Everything is described more in details in zone touch manual. We can connect only one zone door unit. If you need more, you will have to use zone wing with more zone doors. And we have only 2 configurations with 2 outputs, 4 inputs, and second one with 4 outputs and 2 inputs. And of course, recommendation is to use external power supply. Don't power it from zone touch. Power it from with external power supply. Okay, here are some connection details, how to connect zone door to the zone touch. Okay. Jean, do we have some questions here?
There was a question about how to enter the setup for zone button, the older version.
It's the zone button is not a topic here because we are not producing zone buttons anymore. But you cannot enter setup like here. On the zone button, you cannot basically you can enter setup on the device on the zone button, but you cannot change the IP address. But you can change maybe some screen settings and maybe do a reset or something. But basically you power the device off, press and hold leftmost buttons with your 2 fingers. So the 2 left buttons, press and hold. Oh, sorry, I was too quick. You must disconnect the device, power it off, power the device on, and when the keyboard becomes active, press and hold 2 leftmost buttons until the device will go into the setup. But you will not be able to change the IP. This must be done with this Spitza Device Manager application for this older hardware. Some other questions?
No questions in the chat at the moment.
So if you agree with me, I don't know how can I. It's hard because I don't see you. I don't see you in the room like normally when we had a training. We were working everything together, installing, connecting wires. Now it's a little bit harder. I will just show you. So I don't know if you succeeded to connect some devices. Do you have them on the desk? Do you connect the readers, maybe some locks or some lead diodes for simulating the outputs? Okay, I have a question here. What is the possibility of integrating with third-party reader? Basically, you can connect any reader to Zone Wing, Zone Spot, Zone Touch, but it will work. But our controller must understand the Vigand format or data clock format that this reader is using. If it's not any of the standard configurations, basically you will have to send us this reader that we can inspect how it communicates, and we can send you some special configuration that you will upload to the controller, and the controller will understand the reader. But I think 95% of readers that you will connect, any reader, it will work right after you will connect it. Now there's another question. If you set up Spitza configuration on a demo environment, how you can transfer the config to production server? Is this the question for the software, for the database, or for hardware? I guess it's a question on the software configuration. Okay, software configuration. Basically, when you configure when you connect controller for the first time, it's empty. There's no settings. There are no stored badges internally in the memory. There are no configurations how inputs and outputs must behave. This is done when you configure everything in device administration portal and connect the device. At that moment, software will send configuration to the controller, and controller will learn how to behave from that moment. And basically that's everything is in the database. If you want to move from demo environment to the production server, you will have to create a database backup and restore the database there on the production server, because everything is stored in the database. Okay, let's maybe let's continue with device administration portal. We are 1 hour ahead, so we'll have a lot of time for device administration portal. Before Viturosh, you just imported some users into the database, and you installed d.o.o. So first, to be able to log into d.o.o, there must be some user in the system. I have demo database. If you install the empty database, you just enter, if it's not already there, just enter one user. I don't know, name it. You must have at least one user. Then you will have to go under authorization, user accounts, and you will have to create user account for login to device administration portal. With Time&Space, you can log in only here in Time&Space Manager. You cannot log into device administration portal, so you have to create the login. I will create the same username with password. I will set up, I will select the role. For me, it will be administrator. And I will select the user who is using this user account. For roles, because I selected administrator, you can create your own role. If I have some predefined one and my administrator have almost everything selected, I will just check if there is login for device administration portal enabled. It is. So I will be able to log in into my portal. Maybe in the morning I missed few minutes, so I don't know if you already started device administration portal. Jean, did you start it? The portal?
No, we haven't started it yet.
Okay. I saw that Uroš guide you with installation, and he selected also web Time&Space but sometimes because I will from my experience, you must pay attention on that, because I don't know how your internet information server is set up, on what port is running, on what port is default web page on internet information server. And when you install web Time&Space, by default it will be set on port 80, to run on port 80. So if it will mess your port that is on internet information server, you will have to change first the port for web Time&Space. Look, for my default website, on the default port, it's port 80. If you have the same and you also installed web Time&Space, I'm telling you here now, because many times during installation, this is the problem. You will have to, first time, you will have to change the port for web Time&Space, or maybe just stop the service. Anyway, okay. I will run this WAS configuration application, run it as administrator. You must log in here with I must find out the license now. You must log in with TSPika and change port for web Time&Space. That will not mess with your default web page on Internet Information Server, and you will be able to run device administration portal. Change that, save it, and you can check in the configuration file if everything was changed, if the port is now some other port. In my case, it's 82, and you will have to restart Internet Information Server also. Okay. Now we can start. Okay, I will close it. Start from the beginning. You can run it just with the link with localhost DAP, and login screen will appear, or you can start it from Internet Information Server. Just select the page and click Browse. This page will be accessible from inside of your organization. Just change the IP address or server name, and you can run it from everywhere. And now I can log in with my user that I created before in Time&Space login, in Time&Space Manager, sorry. When you first time connect into the DAP, Device Administration Portal, the screen, the wizard will ask you to set up the server. Just a second, is there a chat? No. For address, you can select localhost because you are doing on your own computer, but maybe better if you set the host name of this computer server or IP address. And when you do that, just save. And if all the services that Uros showed you in Time&Space control panel are running, the server will be online. If the services are not running, the server cannot be online and you will not be able to connect to the devices. Any questions till now? Are you able to install the database, to install device administration portal? Okay, probably everything is fine till now.
Yes.
Yes, question?
No.
Okay. Okay, now we have device administration portal alive. Okay, first we will try to connect, let's say, zone wing controller. I will show you something. I have prepared zone wing, zone door, and 2 readers. And there are some lead diodes simulating my electromagnetic clocks. It's easier here to see if output is activated. So we have 2 options to configure the zone wing. The most simple is with USB stick. In the zone wing manual, you can download it from partner portal. You can find instructions how to create USB stick, how to prepare your USB stick, how to name the file that must be there, and what to write on the USB stick. I will show you that it's very easy to change the IP. Just a second. I connected my USB stick. I have one file. You can see it matches the instructions. Now I will open 2 windows that you will believe me that is changed. Oh, sorry. The IP address is changed. Now my zone wing controller have this IP address. I will change it easily with my USB stick. I will try some other address. Okay, Look, it's on 144, it's not answering. I will change my configuration to 144. Save it. I will just show you the camera. I will just connect to the lower part. You see now here started to ping on 144 and it's not pinging in this window anymore. It was very easy. Just prepare the text file, insert it into the device, and device is already with this IP address. I will change it back because I have prepared this. I will need this IP address later. Here in this script, you can change, you can set up DHCP if you need that the device will will receive IP address from your DHCP server. You will set here true. Or if you need to reset the password, you will set here also the true. Like just a second. Okay, let me change it again. You see, now it's replying on 141 and not 144, not anymore. Okay. Now I will show you how to connect to the device's web portal. Just type the IP of the device. When you receive new device and you have no possibility to change or to create a USB stick, and you can scan your network maybe with some DHCP IP scanner like, I don't know, Colasoft. And when you found the IP, you can change it here. The default username for entering the web interface is user. The password is 123. And now I'm on my device. I can see what is the application, firmware version, and some other data, MAC address, IP addresses, ports, and so on. I can change the IP here. For changing port, usually we are not doing that. I suggest you to leave the default port. You can upload the certificates if they are needed and change the password. If you will change it, remember it. Okay, here you can see also if your zone door devices are online. you can see also some other things. I just placed my badge to the reader, and you see there was a response on the second reader. So you can check if zone door is communicating. And you can restart the application, firmware on the device, reboot device, say the factory reset, upgrade firmware, just select the firmware file and upload it. It will take about 5 minutes. And here you can enable some upload some custom configurations if are needed. If you have some special reader that we will prepare some configuration, special configuration, you will upload it here, and your reader will start to work. Zone Wing will understand your reader. And there are some diagnostics. Maybe you will need to download some error logs and send it to us for inspection. Okay, I suggest to have a 5 minutes break. I'm already 5 minutes late, and we will continue in 5 minutes. Okay.
ಸಂದೀಪ್ ಅಲ್ಲ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆಯೋ ಬಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ತೋರಿಸ್ತಾರ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಟ್ರೈನಿಂಗ್. One time. Start ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಇನ್ನು ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಮೀಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ನೀವು ಎಷ್ಟು ಹೋದ್ರ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ಲಂಚಿಗೆ ಲಂಚ್ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಇರ್ಬೇಕು. ಮೀಟಿಂಗ್ ಇಂದ ಎಕ್ಸಿಟ್ ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು.
Okay, can we continue? Probably, yes. Okay, that was Jean. Do you hear me?
Boshi, we can hear you.
Okay. It's really hard like this because I don't see the audience and I don't know if they are sleeping or listening. Okay, we went quickly through settings for zone wing. I will continue a little bit with zone wing and zone door. Just a second, I must found. When you are connecting zone wing, just a second, my camera, connecting zone wing and zone door, of course you will have to set up the address. It's better seen in the manual, but here you have deep switches, 8 deep switches. Setting address starts from the left. If all deep switches are in off position, that means that zone door have address 0. So every time start with the first zone door with address 0. For your next zone door, which you will connect here or somewhere else, but it will be connected to this one, you will move the first deep switch here to the on position. That means that you will set the address 1. Each zone door must have unique hardware address, like it's mentioned in the manual. I think somewhere at the end you have a schema how to address examples, how to address the zone doors. And here are also some jumpers. If you will need to change the behavior for outputs or inputs and outputs, here you will have to change the deep switches and jumpers accordingly. But use the manual for that, not just change, because it must match the settings in the device administration portal. Okay, now I will quickly jump to zone spot, that we will take a look on the hardware, and then we will see how to configure everything. Basically, zone spot is the same. You will set it the same also. You will place the USB stick to the lower USB port if you want to change the IP address. Here you have the connection schema for reader connection, inputs, outputs. First two outputs are active, second two are passive. Like I mentioned before, check the manual for details, and it can be powered over Ethernet, like this one, or depends on the version, you can power it on with 12 volts external supply. Okay, I think we can now continue with DAP administration portal. I hope you succeeded with creating server, device administration portal server. I can change it here, the name, but it address. I can change the name, but it will be, for example, like this, but address must match host name or it must be IP address. So only in that way it will be online and we can connect devices. Okay, I will delete everything that we can do it together. Okay, when you created the server, you will not have any device. Here, I'll select plus and you can see what type of devices are possible to connect. There are some other devices which we integrated into the system and our hardware. Now I will connect Zone Wing. I'll create it, select it, next. I can rename it. In display language here is not important because my Zone Wing does not have any display to show any personal data. Be careful on the time zone. If you will select the wrong one, it could be that your events, that your access data will have wrong timestamp. So select the proper time zone. I'll save and create connection. I will set up my IP address that I set before with USB stick. Leave the default port because I did not change it on the device. Also, I'll check some settings here, default settings. What's important? Maybe this one. It means that the system will try 1000 times for each 45 seconds to connect. This is approximately, I don't know, 12 hours, I think. And if my controller is disconnected for more than 12 hours, when this counter will count down, my device will be disabled in the system and it will not receive or send any data from device administration portal. So if you suspect that your network will be unstable, that you will lose connection for longer than for, I don't know, 12 hours, you can extend auto reconnect timeout or max reconnect timeout. And maybe if your connection is bad, is better to extend a little bit these two delays. The configuration data from the system, from device administration portal, will reach the device, and the device have time to respond at the right time. But do not extend them too much. If you will have problems, you will contact our support and we can recommend you how to set them, how to set these two parameters. I'll click create. Now you can see that there are no data, no BIOS version, no application version, because I'm not connected yet to the device. I can enable device now. Okay. Let me check. We can ping it. Yes, I can ping it. Now I must figure it out why it's not connecting. I will try to first I will try to restart the application on the device and try again. Okay, now it's online. This could happen sometimes when you will move the device zone wing from one system to another, and maybe it would help also if I disconnected the power from the device. Okay, now my zone wing is online. I have information for BIOS and application version. I don't have any reader yet, have nothing here. And first I have to insert the device, the zone door device. I will add zone door device. I will name it zone door 1. I will leave address 0 because my deep switch, first deep switch is in off position. It's in 0. I could move it to on position. That means to set the address to 1, I have to set here address the same so that the system can communicate with the right device. And by default, with default deep switch and jumper settings and the labels on the zone door, you can check it's this configuration. It's 2 readers, 2 inputs, 4 outputs. You can check on your device. You can see the labels here: output 3, output 4, output 2, output 1, and here 2 inputs. That's the default configuration. I will select the same. because if I select any other, I will have to change the positions of the deep switches and jumpers. Sorry, 4 outputs. 4 outputs, yes. 4 outputs, it's default. And here you have schema to see how it's everything now configured. And now I have readers in the system. Reader 1, reader 2. I will just rename the reader. It's better to rename them because if you have more controllers in the system, every first reader in each zone wing will receive name reader 1. So rename them by location, like server room, main entrance, and so on. I will not change anything else. Okay. And now I have also user interfaces. That means settings for the event that you can set to the reader, like access in, access out, arrival, departure, and so on. I have inputs and outputs. Also, I can rename each of them. I can change default pulse time. That means how much time output relay will be active when it will be triggered with the access granted or maybe push button. That means it's this time. Or you can change some other settings, relay type, or mode that it's open, closed. Are there any questions till now?
There is a question about whether we'll be making the recording available of this training.
Yes, I think it will be because it's recorded. It will be. I don't know if Lea is still listening, but she can confirm. Recording started, yes. No technical questions. You successfully connected on your side.
There is another question, is pulse time in seconds?
What time?
Pulse time.
Pulse time. What pulse time?
Probably within outputs or?
Pulse time, yeah, it's in seconds, yes. It's in seconds. I think it can be set to maximum, I don't know, maybe 255. Let's try 300. No, look, the maximum pulse time is till 255 seconds. If you need longer activation, then are other options how to activate it, like with schedules and so on. Okay, then we have alarms. Possibility to set alarms. to see all zone doors, anti-pass back, and some other configurations. For example, how much time controller will wait for respond from device administration portal. Here, by default, it will wait for 30 seconds. If the response is not received, controller will consider as it is in offline mode and send event like in offline mode. Okay, then we can disable profiles. That means that we will not be able to open doors if there are no access profiles. We can enable notifications that we can receive email for offline controller. If there are some network issues, you can receive email that the particular controller is in offline mode. Or you can change badge encoding. In case of using I-class cards, you know that I-class cards has facility code and serial number, and here you can create reading rules, how long it will be the facility code and what's the length of the batch. Okay, we can check this later to see the full. Okay, now I will open live log in another window. It's easier to check everything how it's working, and I will just place a card to one reader. Okay, it's unknown user with a batch number, so I will have to enter this badge into Time&Space to set it to some user. And of course, I will have to set up the access rights to this, for this user, to these two readers. You saw that when I created the badge, there was updating access rights action automatically run. To achieve that, in Time&Space, you have to set up here in Tools Options space, you will have to set up address of the service space API service for this system, because I'm running everything here on this computer. I use localhost. I could use host name or IP address of my computer, and port 1600. That's the port for space API service. And if this is set up, every action here must be automatically reloaded on the controller's book, because space API will send the information to the system that will need to that needs to be reloaded. Okay, let's now try with that user with the card again. Okay, you see the badge number is the same. And now I have a user also that made the open the door. Let's check now. Now we want to open the doors with this reader. I will go to outputs. You will connect to some desired output electromagnetic clock or some maybe some parking. You will connect it on some parking place or automatic door. You must set activated by default. There's a reader. That's what reader is activating the output. By default, there's a reader 1. I can select some other activators like inputs or access denied or alarm. I can set deactivated, that we need to deactivate the output with some action, with input or with alarm. I can open the output. The door, maybe automatic door, will be open from 8 in the morning till 5 p.m. I can set the open schedules here and the output will be activated. Or I can set the toggle mode. That means the first registration, first access with the card in the morning will activate the output. The second one will disable it. Let's try this one. I will enable toggle mode. I will not set up the schedule. I can set up the access schedule in what time this mode is active. I will not do that, so it means that it will be active for 24 hours. When I clicked from these advanced settings back to the devices, in that moment, the system sends reconfiguration to the controller and my settings were sent to the device. Now I will open the camera again, that you will see what will happen. You can see the LED is on. It's always on now because I set up the toggle mode. And the next access, maybe in 2 hours, will close the door. So now it's my output is inactive. But anyway, I can see both events in the system. Does not need to be the same user, just needs to be user with the rights. So one user can open the door, the second user can close the door. I will disable this option now. Now we can see it must behave just for opening the doors for a few seconds. Look, now it's open just for 3 seconds. Okay. Look, I connected here basically I connected the push button. It's connected to my input one. And I will set up that my output will be activated with input 1. I'll open the camera. Now, because look, I pressed and I'm holding the push button, the output is active. Now I will release it and output was disabled. Because I set activator just input. I did not set this one, add input, release time applies. If I select this one, input with release time, it means that when I will press the push button, I can immediately release it, but the output will stay on for 3 seconds as it's set for default time activation. Look, it's for 3 seconds. This is the default release time. Another option, I have another key push button connected to input 2 here. So I have 2 buttons. I will create alarm. Like, for example, you have alarm for, I know, a receptionist will open the door for visitor and you want to know when he opened that or some similar cases. Alarm 1 push button. I select type standard on input. So it means that the alarm will be active as long as I will hold my button connected to the input 2. Create alarm. I will set trigger will be for alarm will be input 2 where my push button is connected. I will not set any schedule. It will work 24 hours and I can set that it's automatically deactivated. Okay, now let's check. I'm pressing the button now. Look, its alarm is activated. Releasing the button, it's deactivated. Activated, deactivated. In camera, nothing yet on the output. My electromagnetic lock is not activated. I will set to output 1 that it's activated with the alarm. So with pressing the button, I activate the alarm and alarm back is activating my output. Look, alarm is activated and my output is activated. On the other button, where the first input, where I connected just push button, it's activated with relay time. Here, it's activated with alarm. So you have a lot of possibilities how to connect, how to configure the system. Okay, when we are at the outputs now, I will activate output now also with the schedule. I will create in Time&Space Manager. I think this will be done later by my colleague, but okay, anyway, I will, I already have some schedules here in the system, so I can just set up that my output is activated with this schedule. And you can see on camera that my output is now always on because the schedule is active. I will disconnect it. You can see that output will be deactivated. Look. Any questions now on the output settings? Jan, is there anything new?
No, there are no new questions at the moment.
So we can continue. We can continue maybe with alarms. Yes.
There is one question: is how can we set door open to long alarm? I don't know exactly what it means, but
For longer time, maybe. Door, let me check. Too long alarm. Basically here the time is limited to 255 seconds, I think. So I don't know what means too long alarm.
Sorry,
Maybe
Boštjan,
that, yes.
I think that he means that he wants to get alarm if the door is open too long. If you open the door and hold it, and if it's not closed, you want alarm.
You will set up, I think, this alarm, door open alarm, door open. Create, just a second. I will have to delete these activators because I will use now. Input one, my push button on input one, I will use as sensor on the doors. that you will use for door open alarm. So if you want that, your lock, electromagnetic lock, must have sensor that you connect it to input, or you have some other sensor mounted on the door, and sensor will send a signal if the doors are opened or closed. So I will set up the input one, will be my sensor on the doors, and output one, where is my electromagnetic lock. I will not set up any schedule, and I will automatically deactivate it. Okay, now let's try it. I'll open the camera. So this push button on input one is behaving like a sensor on electromagnetic lock. So when I place the car to the reader, the door opens, the sensor activates, and if it will be opened too long, that means that the sensor will be active and we must get an alarm. So open the door, sensor is active, and if the doors are still opened, my sensor is still active, I'm getting door open activated. Because the door are still open, I'm still holding my push button. That means the sensor on the doors is still active. My doors is opened. I will now close the door. Look, my sensor, I'm not pressing the button anymore. My sensor is not active anymore, and my alarm is deactivated. For example, with this alarm, I can trigger, let me check. I can trigger maybe output 4, activated by alarm, door open. Let's try again. So user places the card, doors opened. Because it's open too long, you can see other late here on my output 4. It's activated because my alarm is activated because the doors are still opened too long.
You can put the delay on that alarm for 5 seconds or something like that.
I can put the delay.
That was also the additional question.
Okay, sorry, I don't read the chat. Sorry. This will be added to 3 seconds on the relay time. It was alarm was activated with the delay. So it was possibility to hold door opened for 5 seconds more.
There is also a question for a door force open alarm. When the door is forced.
it's basically like door. It's basically the same like standard on input when force door. Input now it will be second input, my other button. Conditions. I think now it must be activated. Yeah, because I didn't open the door with the card. I just pressed the button. Let's try with the card. Now I have more alarms on the here. So it's basically if you forcefully open the door, you will get alarm. There are any other questions? Because we already done a lot of what we should in the afternoon at 2 p.m. So I must not be too quick. If there are any questions here, someone succeeded anything to connect?
Here is another question. Someone tried to force open the door, but it doesn't work, apparently, this alarm. They are asking if you could try that one when they open by card.
Maybe Jean, you will have to help me. You have more experience from the field. Force door, if the settings are right. Just a second, maybe better if I delete all other alarms to not mess. And activators, okay. Force door, so triggers input 2 for output, no schedules, and delay 5 seconds.
Yes, perhaps it's this delay that it's waiting too long. So if you basically, if input is activated but output is not, then this alarm is activated. If the door was simply forced but no card with privileges was used.
Okay, this was input 2. I just pressed the button, activated input 2. Sorry, I should update update alarms here. Okay, let's try with the card. Now I don't have alarm because I use the card. I'm holding the button now, but there's no alarm. And there is no alarm because I use the card. if I will just press the button, so forcefully open the door, I have alarm. But if I use the card and open the door, I don't have it. Okay, I suggest to take a break. And we will continue later. From my side at 2 p.m. and 5 minutes. At 1:10 minutes, my colleague Janez will take over for managing users, badges, access rights. Maybe you can prepare some questions for tomorrow, because basically we are continuing with this device administration portal configuration also tomorrow morning, and today, of course, at 2 and 5 minutes. Okay, hear you at 2-5 minutes from my side, but at 1:10 minutes, Janez is starting. Agree?
Okay.